Perfect. So going on to the next slide. So thanks again for everyone for coming today. We've got quite a lot to cover and some really interesting topics to go over. So regarding the junior doctor contract, we've got Louise from the BMA and Becky from the BMA. So Louise is a BMA membership development manager for the East of England. We're looking to sort of learn the basics of the junior doctor contract, how the BMA supports you in the workplace and throughout your career. And Louise and her colleague Rebecca will be able to answer any questions on joining your trade union and all things employment related. So that's who we'll start off with. In addition to this, we've got Jake, who will take us through how to stay out of trouble, tips for FY1. Jake is a student liaison manager for the MDU. He can answer any questions about membership and joining the MDU. We'll go through an introduction to the medico-legal issues and tips on how to avoid the common pitfalls. So that's record keeping and social media, confidentiality and professionalism. And then also we've got Christina. Christina is a student liaison manager at Wesleyan. We're going to have a look through the free student policy and understanding the financial situation that will change as you develop from medical school to starting FY1 and the steps you'll have to take to grow and protect your earnings as well. So a number of different things, and throughout them do pop any questions in the chat and the speakers will be able to answer. Okay, so over to you, Louise.
Brilliant, thanks. I'll just share my screen. Just bear with me a sec. Okay, can everybody see that full screen? Is that okay?
Yeah, we can.
Brilliant, okay. Hi everyone, welcome to the BMA's quick whistle stop tour on how we support you and protect you as a newly qualified doctor. Firstly, huge thanks to the guys at MedSoc that have helped advertise this and facilitate this for myself, MDU and Wesleyan. So my name's Louise Cox. I'm one of the membership development managers for the East of England, and I'm joined by my colleague Becky, who's one of our expert employment advisors. Becky's going to be talking you through the pay and ration stuff, and there'll also be a special BMA joining offer at the end of our talk too, for those not in membership. Now, I highly recommend that you stay on for all three talks this evening, because they all feature really important information for you. Plus, after Wesleyan's talk, I'm going to be posting a link where you can grab yourself some free BMA stuff. And also it's you know, ask questions, probably want to get your smartphones out. There's possibly QR codes going on and some really important signposting as well. So welcome to the BMA. We are the Doctors' Trade Union and Professional Association. So we are the voice of the medical profession, representing all doctors and medical students locally and nationally on the issues that affect you. So we're here if you experience any difficulties at work, you need career support, and we're here to help you build on your professional development as well. We're not an indemnity insurer, and we don't deal with patient complaints, but we recommend you seek this in addition, and you'll be hearing from MDU straight after our talk. So I'm going to hand over to Becky.
Thanks, Louise. Yeah, I'm Becky. I work as an employment advisor for the BMA. My job focuses on sort of individual cases. What I'm going to talk to you about is quite a dry subject, and I'm also a bit prone to waffling as well, so you may notice that I'm going to read me notes, because if I don't read my notes I may just go off on a tangent and start telling you about all sorts of things that, whilst I believe is completely relevant, I think getting to grips with what can sometimes be the complex terms and conditions of your future contracts more important at this stage. So start a new job, very exciting time. So lots to think about. So hopefully this quick talk that I'm going to give now is going to in some way help to prepare you. So what can you expect from your employer? What should you get? So you can expect and should get a rota and a work schedule. So these include your working hours, your pay, your training requirements, you should get a new contract. The BMA offer a service where we can check your contract for you to make sure that your contract is adhering to the nationally agreed terms and conditions of service. I highly recommend you use this service. When you receive your first paycheck, it may look a little bit confusing. There's lots of different components to it. I'm going to touch on those a little bit later on. But if you've got any concerns at all about what's in your payslip, you can also give us a ring about that, and we can talk you through. We can give you some further information and stuff. There's also a lot of information on the BMA website, so you can look on there. And if you do find you've got something on your payslip you're not too sure about, you can either get the answer on the website or you can give us a ring. Thanks, Louise. So, contract checking. So before you sign on the dotted line, as I say, the BMA will check your contract for you. We negotiate the nationally agreed terms and conditions of service, so we know what should be in your contract, and we can spot quite easily a deviation from the nationally agreed terms and conditions. So please do send your contract to us. Last year, 20% of the contracts that we checked, and bearing in mind we don't check every contract because not everybody's sending their contract to us, 20% of those contracts, there were deviations that we picked up. So when we pick these up for you, we'll give you the information of what should be there that allows you to go back to your employer and tells them to correct that. We can return your contract to you within 5 working days. Thanks, Louise. So rota checking. So it is best to catch rota concerns early so you can negotiate the required changes with your employer. Compliance with contractual rules is only one part of a well-designed rota. There is a comprehensive guidance on the BMA website on the principles of a good rota design in order to improve your health and well-being in the workplace. There's the link for the rota. So there's a link on the slide for the rota checker. So what this is, so it only takes a few minutes to see if your rota is compliant as per your nationally agreed terms and conditions of service. You can input the data on the website and it will tell you exactly if it is compliant or if it's not compliant. If it's not compliant, where it isn't compliant. This gives you the evidence to go back to your employer to say these rota changes need to occur. If there's any further problems, you can speak to First Point of Contact. They will get you in touch with a dedicated employment advisor who can then negotiate and help support you negotiate with your employer to get through these non-compliant issues within your rota. Thanks, Louise. So, sorry. So, your contract, where does it come from? So, nationally agreed and negotiated terms and conditions of service. I bet you're all starting to wish you had 50 pence for every time I say nationally agreed terms and conditions of service, but that literally is the bread and butter of my job. So they're negotiated on a national scale, on a national level and national committees. The employer implements the terms and conditions of service through local policies, and then your individual contract will apply the national terms and conditions of service and the local policies for you. The BMA is involved in all 3 stages, i.e. we're negotiating nationally, we negotiate on local policies, and we also negotiate on sort of your contract that you're going to use to be employed through. Thanks, Louise. So again, your contract. What I want to touch on here is how important your role is. I'm talking about the BMA, you are the BMA, you're part and parcel of it. So the BMA have a number of specialist committees that are officially recognised by the health departments in the national negotiations and by the doctors and dentists review body. Now, if you want to take an active role within one of the specialist committees, there is a lot more information on my website. But don't think, oh, I've got too much to take on already. There's committees on, there's all different committees, and there's all different sorts of support and training and education to help you be proactive on these committees as well. So it's not something that you're just going to be picked up and dropped into. Thanks, Louise. So your salary. Now let's get complicated. So you're paid a basic salary, and that's linked to your grade or level of responsibility. The BMA argued to front load your salary. So it now means that you get more basic pay at an earlier stage in your training. Basic pay is for a 40-hour week. And I think we'll just put a little note on there that we're looking at England terms and conditions here. Sorry if anybody's outside England. Thanks, Louise. So this slide quite clearly depicts the basic salary dependent on grade. The Doctors and Dentists Review Body, which is shortened to DDRB, they annually review the basic salaries. Now, again, through your membership, through the membership fees that you pay, the BMA, along with active members, are actively campaigning, actively influencing the Doctors and Dentists Review Body to ensure that wages are not left to stagnate, that we're seeing increases. Thanks, Louise. So there's several different components to your salary. That slide just before, that was referring to your basic salary. So that's your basic salary on a 40-hour week. This slide is looking at allowances for working weekends. So on top of your basic salary, if you work a shift that begins on a Saturday or a Sunday, you will be paid an allowance. This will be a percentage of your basic pay. And this will be dependent on the frequency of your weekend work. So not to point out the obvious, but if you work one weekend and two, you're going to see a 15% increase on your basic salary. If you look at your pay slip, that's not on your pay slip, then give us a ring and we can talk, and help you with your pay slip and look at the pay slip properly and give you support in making sure that you are being paid correctly. Thanks, Louise. So salary top-ups. So you're paid for a basic working week of 40 hours. You can work up to 48 hours, and most junior doctors do work up to 48 hours. These additional hours that you work, so between sort of hour 41 and hour 48, will be paid at 1/40th of your weekly whole-time pay. And that's also with the weekend allowance as well. Thanks, Louise. So, other aspects of your pay slip. So, you may be asked to be on call. You could be at home on call. You could be expected to give advice by telephone or expected to come in. Now, I think in your foundation years, it's unlikely that you will be working this pattern. But if you do work this pattern, then you should be receiving it should be evident on your pay slip that you're receiving an on-call availability allowance. Any hours that you work between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m., sorry, I do apologise, attract an enhanced rate of 37% of your basic hourly rate. So that will show as your enhanced rate on your pay slip. Flexible pay premia, if that's applicable to you. There are certain criteria about flexible pay premia. I think I'll go into more in a little more detail. Actually, no, I'll go into detail about it now. It's an annual pay supplement to attract people to certain specialities, such as to address the current recruitment shortages. Currently, GP, emergency medicine, psychiatry, OMFS, and academia are attracting that flexible pay premium. The criteria can be complex, but there is always clear advice available from our helpline at first point of contact, and they can direct you through to a local advisor. So we can look specifically at your individual case and understand properly and advise you accordingly. There's also a less than full-time allowance. So anybody who's contracted for less than 40 hours per week, we regard as being working less than full-time. Now, this attracts a annual payment of £1,000 that is paid in 12 monthly payments. Thanks, Louise. So here we see a pay slip. Now, when you get your pay slip, this is quite a nice, all the information is on this pay slip, but it'll be set out slightly different. But this is generally what you can expect to see. So to recap, your basic pay, that's what you're getting paid for your 40-hour week. Additional rostered hours, that's hours between 40 and 48 hours per week that are paid at 1/40th. Each hour is paid at 1/40th of your working week. So night duty allowance, so anything that you've worked between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. will come under your night duty. Weekend allowance, so whether that's 15% because you're working 1 and 2 or less because you're working less, this is where it should be. Non-resident on-call payment, flexible pay premium, cash flow protections on there, but that's in relation to pre-2016 contracts. So we really will get ever so complicated if we start going into that one. So it's unlikely you will see cash flow protection given where you are at this stage right now. Thank you, Louise. So other key contract features. You will also need to know, so annual leave, you're entitled to annual leave, 27 days per year. You're entitled to study leave. You're entitled to 15 days study leave in your first foundation year, 30 days every year after that. Sick leave entitlement. So in your first year of employment within the NHS, you should receive, if you have, if you need to go off sick, and there is sickness benefit there to support you in the first year. If you're off sick for a month, you will still be remunerated at full-time pay. If you need to take a second and a third month off sick, these will be at half pay. Once you've worked in the NHS for more than 5 years, then you are eligible for 6 months at full pay. Should you need, I hope you don't, but should you need to take any sick leave, and 6 months half pay. What am I, before I start waffling on? So limits on working hours are covered in the National Terms and Conditions of Service. For anybody that thought, oh, it's been a long time since you last said that phrase. There's several components to safe working. And this is, again, I've mentioned it earlier on, but our rota checker is so important. It's the contract that you're going to be entering into took hard negotiations. So please don't let trusts take advantage of you working longer hours than you should be doing than you're getting paid for. Our rota checker can assess to make sure your rota is compliant. If you've checked your rota, it is compliant, but then you find that you're not working to it, i.e. you're not getting your breaks, you're not getting your educational opportunities, you are not getting sort of training opportunities, you can use the exception reporting. So this will highlight where trusts are failing you. The trusts have a duty towards you to train you properly, and not, that has to be there. But if you don't exception report where things aren't working out properly, then it's almost like it didn't happen, So please do use the exception reporting. The exception reporting will go to the Guardian of Safe Working. The Guardian of Safe Working, each trust must have one. This is part of your nationally agreed terms and conditions of service. So the Guardian of Safe Working will work with the Junior Doctor Forum to make sure that you're not missing out on the training opportunities, you're not being abused and expected to work longer hours than you're being paid for, Please do also speak to your local reps. Please do think about being a local rep yourself. The opportunities are there. With regards to the sort of specialist committees I mentioned earlier, where you can get active in your union, not being a rep, active in your union, if that's something you are interested in, then please do have a look on the website. There's a lot of details on the website. But if you take anything from today's little talk that I've done, if you're all still awake out there, I sincerely hope you are, Please do use the exception report, and please do. Please do check your pay slips. I often get presented a case where somebody's pay is wrong, and I have to sometimes end up going back over the previous 24 months to try and find out where this has gone wrong and how we've got to this place. So if you suspect anything is just not looking right in your pay slip, please do phone up first point of contact. Please do speak to us, and please do make sure you're getting paid the right money. What trusts often do as well, quite frequently, is overpay. And there's nothing worse when the trust gets involved and when the trust sends you a letter and says, all right, you know, you owe us £5,000, we've been paying you this and you weren't entitled to it. So please do keep an eye on your payslip, and please do exception report. Okay, thanks, Louise.
Thanks, Becky. Just a few pointers here before I quickly go over the other benefits that we've got. I mean, Becky's been over most of these anyway, but make sure your BMA membership's up to date, because we can't help you if you're not in membership. Contract check-in, rota check-in we've covered. Obviously ensure your GMC registration, it's compulsory. And we do recommend you join a medical defence organisation. Consider your finances, and obviously we've got MDU and Wesleyan coming up. And yeah, think about the JDF, the Junior Doctor Forum, when you get into your trust, find out about that. So some useful pointers there. And this just gives you a snapshot of just how many cases that we can deal with in a year. So like Becky said, what would you do if you weren't paid correctly? I know of consultants where trusts have tried to claw back thousands of them, and we've had to get involved and negotiate, you know, a staggered payback. So this is all really, really common stuff that we see literally on a daily basis. So also learning and development from the BMA. We're here to help you, you know, develop professionally. So we've got the BMA library. It's literally got thousands of e-books, e-journals, research services. And I did have one Cambridge student once tell me it was worth joining the BMA for our e-book collection alone. And that's quite remarkable from somebody at Cambridge, considering their libraries. Specialty Explorer, that's really exciting for medical students, foundation doctors. It's online psychometric test. It takes about 20 minutes and it asks you all sorts of work-life balance questions. And at the end of it, you get a really detailed report. It's about 20 pages listing top 10 specialties according to the answers that you've given. You'll also get access to BMJ Learning when you're a member of the BMA. So if you want to keep up to date with the latest clinical research, you know, stay up to date on professional development, careers and jobs, the BMJ can help. If you're in your final year, you can upgrade to the full weekly BMJ as part of your membership if you're a final year. Obviously, foundation doctors, they get the BMJ weekly as part of their membership anyway. Also webinars. It's worth going and have a look at. Go and have a look on the BMA website at all the learning and development resources. I think you'd be amazed if you haven't been on there before. So we also have our wellbeing support service for anybody that needs our help. If you need support or you'd like to speak to somebody in confidence, this service is 24/7. It's free of charge to all doctors and medical students. You don't have to be in membership. And there's always somebody that you can talk to. So we have trained counsellors, and we also have doctors trained in peer support. Just very, very quickly get this on, because this is my penultimate slide. There is an event here. If you're a BMA member, you will get to hear about this. It will be emailed out to you at some point. But we're doing a talk with 3 FY2 doctors in our region. We're having an informal chat with them online about their experiences. So it's all about life after medical school. But if you're not a member, take my email down, or I'll put my email in the chat anyway. And you can get details of that event in May. So finally, if you join BMA today, I will send you a £10 Costa voucher. You can join on the link on here, which ends in 5600, or the really handy QR code. But to get the Costa voucher, you need to email me so that I know you've joined from this event. We have hundreds of students and doctors joining the BMA every day, so you will need to email me. You'll also only pay student membership right up until the 1st of October, when the new membership year begins. So like I said, that's our sort of, we've probably gone over a little bit. that's our presentation. So thank you for watching and listening to that. And I do recommend you stay on for MDU and Wesleyan because they've got really important stuff to tell you as well. Thanks, guys. I'm going to stop my share.
Thank you both.
Hi guys, that was really useful. I just think it's a good opportunity. We've got one really good question in the chat, if that's okay. Just to answer now quickly, it says, does the BMA offer any help for international students coming to the UK as a foundation doctor? I'm a non-EU citizen studying in an EU country.
I would just have to quickly double check that for you. We do have concessions for IMG doctors, but it's an international student coming to, yes, yeah, we probably do. While MDU start, if you can let me look into that, is that okay?
That sounds marvellous. Thank you. On to you, Jake.
Yeah, ready to go? Cool. Share my screen. Bear with me. Can everyone see that? Yeah.
Yeah, that looks good.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. As I said already, and thank you to Louise and Rebecca. My name is Jake Williamson, and I am the liaison manager at the Medical Defence Union. I'm the point of contact between the students, the faculties, and the MDU. So if you do need anything, please don't hesitate to give me a message. Today, I just want to talk to you about some of our top tips for keeping yourself safe as an F1, as explained, and then touch a little bit about the MDU and where we might need support. If you haven't signed up yet for your F1 membership and would like to do so, then the QR code on the screen or the URL link on the screen is also the best and direct way to do this. Feel free to do this as I'm speaking, or alternatively, I will speak about membership later on if you're not ready to do so just yet. Look at some top tips for record keeping then. There are many functions of record keeping. Primary functions would be it translates to a level of care provided. There tends to be a trend to be high correlation between good notes and good care, as well as the other way around, being bad notes resulting in a deterioration of care provided. It acts as a memory aid and a form of protection for you. I don't know about you, but I forget what I did yesterday, let alone what I did last week. In some cases, patients are able to make a claim 3 years after the incident that takes place. And for children, this is 3 years after they turn 18. So you could possibly, well, you couldn't possibly remember this far back. And if you could, it wouldn't be as accurate as the notes that you were taking on that day. Good communication as well with colleagues is so important for good care and the care of patients. With varying shift patterns, it's not as easy as it was back in the day, as patients see several doctors about the same problem. As well as a reminder for you, it's imperative that the person seeing the patient after you also understands your thoughts and your processes. I would normally open this up to the floor, but there's so many of you that I'm just going to say, just have a little think. What does a good record look like? Just give you a second to have a think. It's really important to note that one day down the line, it may be a patient or the patient's solicitor who is end up reading these notes. So make sure you stay objective and professional. Whatever form of record you are using, they should ensure that all of these above points are satisfied. Make sure they're legible, dated, timed and signed. And when we say signed as well, we don't just mean a scribble. Make sure that it's very legible and you sign it clearly, even if that is just writing your name. When looking at the contents of the records, using a patient presenting with a chest pain, for example, using the words given by the patient to describe the pain can be helpful. Also, it presents a good memory aid for them if they ever read the notes, if they bring up a case, and it could help them remember that you did examine them fully, for example. It's important to document things that are not present as well, so documenting the negatives as well as the positives, such as the fact that there was no nausea, for example. And again, make sure that we stay objective because we never know who is reading the notes in the future. When we do look at the GMC guidance, we need to make sure that we're aware of the musts and the shoulds from their guidance. It's not uncommon for poor quality of notes to be identified by the GMC as part of the investigation of a case. Even if the actual clinical complaint itself has no merit, it can still be due to the poor quality of notes. And then if we look at the GMC guidance, they say clinical records should, again, looking at the shoulds and the musts, have or include relevant clinical findings, the information given to patients, any drugs prescribed or other investigations or treatment, and then who is making the records and when. Go on to a little bit about confidentiality then. We need to think about the type of information that is confidential. A patient who attends an appointment, if they have sent an email or a letter, any information that you know about the patient in the course of your professional relationship with them. So what the doctors and the patients see and when, any clinical information, photographs, videos, emails, anything else that may directly or indirectly identify the patient. This is just one case scenario. You may well have seen in the papers instance where notes or documents have been found on a bus or in someone's garage when they've moved out of their house. So this case scenario then, at the end of her shift, an FI1 decided to clear out her locker and get rid of the number of post-take ward rounds job sheets that were no longer needed. The papers had patient stickers with the list of diagnosis and outstanding investigations listed beside each name. The FI1 intended to shred them in the secretary's office, but bumped into a colleague on her way there and went to a cafe next to the hospital for coffee. The papers fell out of her pocket and were handed back to the hospital. The trust took disciplinary action for the loss of confidential data and failure to declare the loss. Consider very carefully the records that you hold and how to dispose of them. Firstly, the locker is not for job sheets, and it is for personal belongings such as your coat. So be sensible where you put these things. Think about your priorities for one as well. Although I would agree coffee is up there, when it's something that could result or potentially result in a GMC referral, I would go and do it first. Coffee can wait and take the back seat. If you are aware of something like this or something like this has occurred, make sure you make it well known straight away. The GMC is hot on dishonesty and trust, and not declaring a loss of confidential information such as this is likely to result in disciplinary action for the doctor concerned. And it's probably in the realms of a written warning due to the scenario of the case. Most of us are on social media these days. All I say is just be really aware, be professional at all times, don't post when you're angry, tired, or otherwise impaired. Maintain appropriate professional boundaries, avoid any dialogue with a patient through social media sites, and optimize your privacy settings. But again, I should just note, always assume that anything you post can be seen by anyone, regardless of your privacy settings. On this, I would like to note that we do have free social media course that can gain you CPD points. This can be found on the website, or just email me and I can get the details to you. A little bit about us at the MDU then. The MDU was first established in 1885 as the world's first organisation to defend the reputation of doctors. We are a not-for-profit organisation and the market leader for medical defence. Further to this, more doctors choose us than all the other medical defence organisations combined. We're a mutual organisation, meaning that we're owned by our members, and the only medical defence organisation with a doctor as the chief executive. As you can see on the slides, there's a few stats, a little bit about us, and there's a reason to why you should become a member with us. I'll give you a few seconds to read that. Next, some frequently asked questions. Why do I need indemnity? Doctors registered with the GMC must have adequate indemnity in place so that your patients won't be disadvantaged if they do make a claim about the clinical care that you've provided. Doctors need to be indemnified for claims at all times, including work done in the past, or whether working privately or within the NHS. Do I need membership of an MDO if I'm employed by the NHS? Whilst clinical negligence claims for doctors working in the NHS are covered by the NHS indemnity scheme, other areas of practice aren't necessarily so, including things such as private work, medical reports, support and representation at coroner's inquests. Ultimately, the NHS indemnity scheme is there to pay out the claims and not provide the other support required if clinical negligence does take place, which we'll see on the next slide. If these situations do happen, it can be very distressing, and in some instances, the consequences can be significant in your career. The MDU membership fills the gaps left by the limitations of the NHS indemnity and can be invaluable if things don't go to plan, or just simply when you need some advice. Multiple jeopardy is when one single incident can lead to all sorts of different investigations and outcomes for doctors. If there's one thing I can say to convince you to get registered with the MDU today, it's this top one here, your civil claims. This is what I was saying, that's covered by the NHS indemnity scheme. The rest of them are what we're here to help you with. Taking a look at a death of a patient, for example, leading to a coroner's inquest. Where there's a concern about the standard of your care, the doctors who are subject to an inquiry have an obligation to self-report to the GMC. So already this doctor is subject to an inquest and a GMC investigation. Then we could also have a civil claim made against you under the Fatal Accident Act as they seek damages against you, or if it gains media coverage, which it can often do, you could receive unwanted attention and damage to your reputation without even having said so yourself, because media picks up on things quite quickly. Members do call on us for assistance before a trial, fitness to practice panel or coroner's inquest, and other medical legal things that need support. And our advisors can support and help to prepare statements as well as arrange legal representation when needed. Joining the MDU then. Your student membership ends on the first day of the month following your qualification, and it's important that you're indemnified for when you start working. This again is a GMC requirement. A good way to know if you have signed up is if you have one of these 3 gifts on the screen, the foundation program, the clinical study cards, or the pocket prescriber, as you would have received one as you signed up. Your F1 membership is £10 and gives you access to indemnity, meaning that you have expert advice through our medical advisors, support with medical legal issues such as complaints and the GMC. And as I said, if you sign up today, you will get one of these free gifts posted to you, hopefully within the next few weeks, depending on delivery time. And it's important to note that your payment doesn't come out until just before you start working as an F1, as your student membership is still active until August, which is great. So now, the sooner you get signed up, the quicker you get your book. And as a reminder, the QR code throughout is the quickest route to do this. As of last week, we are now working with 2 brilliant charities that help doctors and medical students with mental health concerns. They are the Doctor Support Network and the RMBF. The idea is to donate half of each Foundation 1 subscription we received in 2021 to support the amazing work that they are doing in these really challenging times. So for every £10, we will give £10 evenly to these 2 charities. This applies to both 2021 and 2022 graduates. So there really is no better time to get signed up than right now to support those, the charities, as well as in turn effectively supporting yourselves and your fellow colleagues. Final few slides then. It is really important to note that as a member, it doesn't necessarily mean you have an online account. So you do need to go online and register for your online account. The QR code is just filling out your application form, and once done, you need to go and register online, giving you member access content and keep your membership details up to date, as well as download the membership documents. Final slide, this is me. I am the liaison manager. As I said, if you need anything at all or have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. If the demand is there, I can arrange a Q&A session with one of our medical legal advisors so that you can have a bit more time to ask some more detailed questions and potentially questions that I myself can't answer in that much detail. If you haven't done so, again, URL code and the QR code is on the screen to get your membership up and running. If you do have any doubts, please feel free to give me a call or an email, and I'll happily talk you through a little bit further. I know this has been quite a speedy talk, so we can do that, or just speak to seniors, lecturers and supervisors, and I'm sure they will be able to give you some advice on things like this. And then just to make it clear, if it wasn't clear already, the BMA and Wesleyan, who are talking today, as well as me, they're not defence organisations, and you can and you should sign up to all 3. I will pop my email and the link again in the chat for you guys. Thank you very much. Hopefully it was nice and quick for you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Jake. I see that Kate's been able to answer some of the questions in the chat as well, which has been really good. So I think if there are any more, it's worth popping them in the chat as well.
Yeah, will do. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. And so moving on, so I'll hand over to you, Christina Wesleyan.
Fab, thank you. I'm just popping a little bit of blurb in the chat box, just preemptively, and then I'll get my presentation up. So there we go. hopefully you can all see this now. Right. So everyone, thank you so much for sticking around. I really do appreciate it. Some of you may have heard this talk before, but if you're not sure, please do take a note of my email address and contact me if you have any questions. I'm just going to take 10 minutes of your time to tell you a little bit about who Wesleyan are, what we do, and how you can join us. Now, I can't see the chat box or anything at the moment, but my colleague Millie is on the line as well. So if we get any questions in the chat box, she'll be able to unmute herself and let me know. Or feel free to unmute yourself as well. Let's keep it interactive. But firstly, I would also like to say a massive thank you to the MedSoc for organising all of this. I really, really, really appreciate it. So strap in, let's crack on. What do Wesleyan actually do? So we provide specialist financial advice, okay? And you might think, oh, but we're students. Why on earth would we need financial advice? Hopefully by the end of the next 10 minutes, it will make sense. So I'm going to talk to you about something called income protection. Now, this is only for 2021 and 2022 qualifiers. So if you're intercalating or you're a younger year and you've snuck in, that's great that you're keen, but you won't be able to join unless you are 2021 or 2022. So back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, we used to have a paper application form, and you'd have to fill that in, and I would post it to our head office. Obviously, the ubiquitous QR code is there now. So if you want to have a sneaky peek at the application form, just hover your phone over that, or the application form is also in the chat box. So I'm going to look after you while you're students. And then when you qualify, I pass you on to our financial consultants, and they talk to you about savings, investments, mortgages, pension planning, all that kind of good stuff. But none of that can really happen unless you have an income, which is why Wesleyan provide income protection to you for free while you're a student. So we're a specialist company. The financial consultants you see will only ever deal with doctors, so they have real in-depth knowledge of your career path, where you're going and what you're doing. We're also a mutual company, which I'm really, really proud of. It means all of the money goes back into the company to help support our members and clients. So without further ado, what even is income protection? So it's basically a plan that pays you if you can't work because you've had an accident or an illness. And it pays you a regular tax-free income. And the reason I'm talking about it to you today about it is because we give this to you for free while you're a student. If you go off sick for more than 6 weeks, we pay you £210 per week tax-free, and that's payable for up to 2 years. Now, Becky and Louise from the BMA were talking about salaries and what you can earn and what your income is. So I'm not going to go over that. Just a quick reminder, that's your basic pay, but also if you remember, they showed you what you would be earning year on year as you progress through your career. So a lot of people think that the NHS will take care of them and pay sick pay, and they absolutely do, but it is very limited, particularly in your early years. You'll get 1 month's full pay, 2 months half pay, and then you get nothing. So you've all been around enough A&E departments, people can have accidents and illnesses that they suffer from for a lot longer than 3 months. And the most you'll ever get from the NHS is 6 months full pay, 6 months half pay. And again, people can have life-changing illnesses, career-ending illnesses, and it doesn't really matter what age they are, it can happen at any time. So that's why the majority of doctors have an income protection policy in place. So the way the Wesleyan one works is, as a student, if you're in your penultimate year and final year, you have to be 34 or under, and you can take it out. And if you're off sick for more than 6 weeks, we pay you £210 per week, tax-free, for up to 2 years. And we're covering the cost of that on your behalf. We feel it's so important for you to be able to get your income protected, and that's why we give this to you at the very, very start, before you start work. Then when you do start work, what you pay us is what's called the premium, and that is £15 per month if you decide to keep this on. But the benefit that we pay you goes up from £210 per week to £380 per week, tax-free. And again, it dovetails in with your NHS sick pay. So it really is specifically designed and bespoke for people in the NHS. So this new doctor cover phase lasts for 5 years. So the premium that you pay us and the benefit that we pay you if you go off sick goes up by 10% in each of those 5 years, just to make sure it's keeping in line with your salary increases. And then after that, if you haven't already done so, you can sit down with one of our financial consultants. You'll all be doing different things in your career, so it's really important that you have the Goldilocks of income protection. So you're not paying too much and you're not paying too little. So we'll just quickly run over the benefits of cover. We cover you for HIV needle stick. We cover rehabilitation and proportionate benefit. So this is if you go back to work part-time when you're working. We cover all dangerous sports, so football, hockey, rugby, MMA, CrossFit, skiing, skydiving. Even if you had an accident, if you were cycling on the road and you were off your studies for more than 6 weeks, then you would start to get some money from Wesleyan if you'd taken out this cover. We also cover for all pregnancy-related complications, so preeclampsia through to postnatal depression. But the most important thing about the Wesleyan income protection is that it's occupation specific. And what that means is it covers you as a doctor. Now, Wesleyan are the only people who give this to you while you're a student. We're the only people who give it to you for free while you're a student. When you start work, you will be approached by other companies, which is fantastic. We welcome the competition, that's great. But if you are comparing income protection policies, make sure you compare like with like. Make sure you get one that's occupation specific. Because what that means is it's covering you as a doctor. So if something happens, so say you were a surgeon a few years down in your career, but you hurt your hand and you were unable to perform surgery. Some companies might say, oh, that's a shame, but you could still be a lecturer, you could work in an office, you can still work, so we're not going to pay you. Wesleyan say that you can't do the job that you've trained to do, so we do pay out. So the industry average last year was 88% of policies were paid out. The Wesleyan average is 98% of claims that we get are paid out, which again, I'm really, really proud of that statistic. So how much is it? As I said, we cover the cost while you're in your penultimate and final year. And then it's the subsidized standard rate of £15 per month. Now, we do ask for health details, and you'll see there at the bottom, exclusions and limitations might be applied, and people get a bit scared by that and think, oh God, small print, I'm signing my life away. What that means is we ask for health details. The majority of forms get processed with no issues. Very, very occasionally, we might have to charge you slightly extra if you have a health condition, but we would agree that with you in advance. We wouldn't just say, oh, you pay £17 a month arbitrarily. You would have to agree that. The third thing that could happen is we exclude a problem, so we wouldn't cover it. We cover everything else, but not that one problem. In very, very rare circumstances, we're not able to take you on at all. But when you qualify, our financial consultants have access to other policies that you might be able to take out. So those are the 4 things that can happen. As I said, the majority of forms get processed with no issues. So the reason we give you income protection while you're at medical school is at Wesleyan, we believe it's really, really important for you to be able to get yourself protected before things start to happen to you. Because the earlier you take it out, the less it tends to cost in the long run. And obviously the big thing at the moment is COVID. If you're off your studies for more than 6 weeks with long COVID, then if you've got your Wesleyan cover in place, that would be you getting your money. So the way it works, the application form should be in the chat box and the QR code is there. All the application forms we receive for income protection will get a £10 Uber Eats voucher. Again, if you could do this before 12 o'clock tomorrow, if you possibly can, it just means I know which event, which person relates to which event. My email address will be in the next slide. So any problems at all, just please email me. So complete the application form online. Then it will go through to our underwriting department. And if they get back in touch with you, then they will ring you from a Birmingham number, which is 0121. So just get back in touch with them, or they'll email you. Now, we do ask for bank details on the form, and there's two reasons for that. It's because we just hope that you are going to keep your application going when you start work. So it's a smooth process. And it also means if you have to claim as a student, we can get the money to you directly. So then step 3, if you're accepted by Wesleyan, we contact you 6 weeks before you are due to start paying. So the first payment comes out in November after you qualify. So 6 weeks before that, we would email you and write to you. We hope that you're going to keep it on. We hope that once you've had a pay slip or two, you really, really will see the benefit of it. But just to make you aware, you're not tied in, okay? So that's the way the process works. Hopefully that all makes sense. It's been a very, very fast talk. I hope you've been able to understand my accent. If you haven't, my contact details are there. Please email me. I'd be delighted to take any questions tonight or take any questions whenever in your own good time. Okay, and I will say thank you very much. Stop sharing my screen and open it up to more questions.
Marvelous. That was really, really useful. Thank you very much.
Sorry. I've just quickly seen a question. I didn't realize there were going to be doctors here as well. If you are a doctor and you filled out the form and you're not sure whether you've still got it, can you please email me directly and I can go and chase it up? I'll chase up your membership number. I need to know what school you qualified from, your date of birth and your full name, please. So thank you for that.
So there's a possibility that the questions will continue to come in for everyone. So if all our speakers are able to just hang around for a little bit longer and answer any questions that do pop up, that would be wonderful. And I've just got a final message. I'm conscious that it's sort of bang on the hour, so we'll let you go really soon. I know there's a lot to take in from this, but it's all been really interesting and something we don't really know about. It's just about an upcoming event. So it's just to let you know that we're currently in the process of organising a short talk by Fairstone Financial Management. So it's one of the UK's largest independent financial advisors. And they give talks to sort of, medical students at every UK medical school, including UEA. And I think they've been doing that for around about 30 years. Of providing the independent financial advice. This year, face-to-face talks aren't possible, so they're putting together a 15-minute film covering the key points to consider as you finish medical school and start to earn some money. And there are 2 levels of sponsorship that we can achieve as MedSoc if we schedule a screening of their film to get more than a certain number of attendees to come along. The presenter will also be on hand during this to answer any questions immediately after. So this is just to let you know that I'll circulate some dates soon and see what's available possibly around mid-April. But what we're trying to do here is really trying to boost our ability to support UEA final years for graduation ball or any events to sort of help you out in a really quite difficult year to be ending on. So that's all from me. I think if anyone's got any questions, I'll leave it over to our speakers to answer and we'll go from there.
Just very quickly, Rory, I've just posted a link in the chat where students can get one of our new BMA student ethics toolkits. So that it covers like approaches to decision making, medical ethics law, and ethical dilemmas, everyday sort of ethical dilemmas. So if guys want to fill that form in, we can get that out to you.
Perfect. Otherwise, people are free to enjoy the next few days of good summer, hopefully. Well, spring, but I don't know what's going on. So we'll stick around for a little bit longer, and if you've got any final questions, do pop it in. We'll keep going. But otherwise, enjoy your evening. I'll just end the recording here as well.